because that was my married name. For those of you who don't know me, and I'd like to officially welcome you all to the New Wealth Paradigm webinar. I know some of you may just be getting off work, and if you're on the East Coast, you might even be winding down for the evening. Wherever you are, I want to congratulate you for taking this time out of your busy schedule for accepting the invitation from the person who invited you here tonight. So, without further ado, let's get started. First, let me say this isn't another money webinar filled with jargon, guilt, or shame. This is a conversation about real people and real life experiences. It's a sacred space where we can disrupt old programming, reconnect with our true selves, and learn practical ways to grow, protect, and expand our wealth. Just to share a little bit about myself to those of you who don't know me, like many of you, I didn't grow up learning financial literacy at school or at home. What I was taught was to go out and get a good job with good benefits and a retirement plan. And that's exactly what I did. But after 31 years in my career with the US Postal Service, life changed for me in 2017. This is when the time that I took care of the responsibilities of caring for my mom who had Alzheimer's. By 2019, excuse me, I was overwhelmed, stressed out, and ready just to give up on everything. I was commuting from work 2 hours up and 2 hours back, and my finances were spiraling out of control. I decided that I could no longer do this and decided to retire from the US Postal Services without even knowing what my plan was going to be in retirement, how I was going to sustain. I met a friend, a coworker actually, and she introduced me to Miss Petrina Wisdom, someone that you'll be meeting here later on this evening. I accepted an invitation to go see a presentation for finances for women. Not only did I learn how money really works, I obtained my California license with health and insurance. And from that, the financial institution on the platform that we work with was able to create a plan for me that helped me pay off $40,000 in debt in just 4 years. Today, I'm proud to be a licensed independent financial professional in 6 states, in business for myself, but not by myself. And this brings me to the introduction of our first speaker, the very reason so many of the leaders on this panel are here today. This woman lights up every room she enters. With a background in personal development and a passion for empowering women, she's a bestseller author of 2 books, Motherhood is Not for Punks and Anatomy of Abundance. She is also the creator of the Anatomy of Abundance framework, which hosts women empowerment retreats all around the world. With over 20 years of experience in the financial services industry, plus a background in real estate investing, she has seen this business from every angle. First as a supportive partner, and then as a beneficiary, and now as a respected leader and mentor. Please join me in welcoming the woman who has not only paved the way for so many of us in this business, but who continues to inspire me personally with her brilliance, her generosity, her wisdom, and her unwavering belief in what's possible. My mentor, my friend, Senior Marketing Director, Miss Petrina Wisdom.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you so much, Patricia. It's so incredible to be here with everybody. I'm going to do my best to be techie and engaging. So pray for you, girl. Okay. So for those of you who we haven't already met, I just want to welcome you and thank you for taking time out of your schedule this evening. I think this is a really important conversation that we're having, and we're having it in a new way, which for me is so much fun because I'm always disrupting things and kind of bumping against the grain. And tonight is no different. And so, before I actually go into some of the information that we're going to share tonight, I just want to let you know a little bit about my story because I'm actually going to stop the share for a minute so I can see all these beautiful faces. Okay, there we go. So, a little bit about my story. Yep. I've been actually one of these people who has always been very much a free spirit. Okay. So I'm going to ask you guys for engagement tonight. So if I say something that resonates, I want you to drop it in the comments, right? So if you're a free spirit, if you're a world traveler, digital nomads at heart, go ahead and put that in the chat. Raise a hand, do something just so that I know you're here and that you understand where I'm coming from. So I was a very creative yes, thank you, Lisa. Elena. I thought that was Lisa. So I've always been a very creative person. I was a singer, I was a model, I was an actress, and I just saw myself on stage and entertaining and just being creative my entire life. I'm a girl who never wanted to get married, never wanted to have kids because I didn't really have any examples of what that looked like successfully. Okay. So I grew up with a single mom. She had me at a very young age. I had a lot of women in my family. They were all beautiful. They were all charismatic. They were all extremely smart. And unfortunately, they were broke and they didn't own homes and they didn't have the lifestyle that I at a very young age wanted for myself, but didn't necessarily know how to make happen. None of us also had any kind of financial education. So fast forward when I'm roughly about 15, almost 16 years old, I meet a man. I fall in love. And y'all can probably finish this sentence for me. I end up getting married. I end up having children and building this entire picket fence life that I never actually asked for, but fell in love with once I had it. And so I always say that God has a sense of humor. Like nobody would have seen that coming, right? So, over the years, 20 something years together, I've always been an entrepreneur. I've always been someone who just created my own way. And even within my marriage, once I did that, I had a very great gift for maintaining myself and my freedom, even within the container of the relationship. And I'm glad that I did because if you fast forward to January of 2009, at that point we had been married, I want to say maybe, well, been together for about 22 years ish. We had three children, two houses, two cars, the whole shebang. 2009 was a year after the financial markets crashed. And my husband was in the financial business. Now, fortunately, because he always kind of forced me to learn financial education, he forced me to be involved in the finances. I did have a little bit of foundation, but like many women, I was very intimidated by money. I didn't really want to talk about it. I'm kind of like, you handle it, right? Well, unfortunately, on January of 2009, my husband woke up one morning, put on his suit and tie, grabbed his briefcase, gave me and my three children at the time a kiss goodbye. He told us he loved us and he walked out the door knowing he wasn't coming home. So he goes missing for 24 hours. And the next morning, I found out my husband had taken his life. Everybody take a breath. Yeah. So you can imagine that my whole world crumbled. And overnight, I was put in a position where I had to choose if I was going to be a victim, right? And just allow my life to be out of my own control, or if I would choose to be a victor over that situation, which is obviously what I've done. Now, fortunately, because I did have the foundations of the financial education, I was able to kind of navigate the situation. You know, we had investments, we had our homes, which had equity, right? Access to capital. We also had life insurance. So I was able to get, I was the beneficiary of a large sum of money, what they call a rainfall, right? So I had what I needed to move through that situation, fortunately, because of the exposure that we had to the financial business. But what I was not prepared for was to take over the business. I had my own personal development and transformation company. I found out I was pregnant with my fourth child the same day that my husband took his life, and I inherited his financial business, all within a 24-hour span. So, needless to say, stuff got real. So I tell you all this to say that in that moment of loss and grief and pain and heartache and just complete earth shattering trauma, if I'm just calling it what it is, I really had to lean into a courage and a strength that I didn't know I had. But what got me through was this belief that everything happens for a reason. And if you can relate to that, if you're one of the people who say that all the time, everything happens for a reason, right? It becomes very cliche. But in moments like this, oh, yeah, that'll test your everything happens for a reason. And I was very curious to find out the reason. So I really made a commitment during that time that not only was I going to get through this, but that I was going to thrive and be an example to other women that you can't allow the outside world, your experiences, your trauma to break you. You want to break through it, and then you want to lead the way for others. And so that's exactly what we're doing today. All right. So today we're going to talk about a problem that I feel really stifles women, and it has to do with their relationship with money. We're going to talk a little bit about my trademarked Anatomy of Abundance framework, which is actually a way of living in an embodied and sovereign way, where you're bringing the mental, spiritual, emotional together with the financial so you can create a life of fulfillment and create wealth for yourself and your family. And then we're going to talk about financial cornerstones. So if you're someone here who's like, I don't have any financial education, like you, I've also been a little bit like scared to kind of jump in. It's not a conversation I'm really interested in. Great. I'm glad you're here because we're going to keep it super simple. And this is a conversation you can't afford not to be a part of anymore. We're also going to talk about some possible solutions and what your next best aligned step might be. Okay. So that is not the slide that I wanted. Like I said, I'm trying to be techie and I'm going to
Doing phenomenal.
There we go. Thank you. I'm trying to be techie and engaging. So, one of the other things for those of y'all who know me is I'm not afraid to like make mistakes because I'm not a super self-conscious person. And the reason is because everything I do to be an example. And if I screw it up, I'm trying not to cuss. Y'all heard that? If I screw it up, that's like if I screw it up and I'm okay, then it gives you permission to screw it up and be okay. So here we are. We're at the correct slide. So here's the problem. And this entire presentation is I'm speaking to the heart of women, but I know we do have one gentleman on here. We may have more gentlemen join. It applies to everyone. It's just that women have very unique challenges when it comes to our relationships with money. And so the first one is that we suffer from investment intimidation. Like I said, we have these fear, scarcity programs that keep us settling financially and really in life in general, girls. Come on now. I know I better get some comments and some stars and something on that. Relationships, money, positions at your job, pay, we settle, right? We also have a tendency to suffer from hustle and burnout cycles because we're taking care of our family, we're working, we're taking care of our partners and our parents, right? Depending on your age group, you have a lot of responsibility and rarely do you take time to rest. So women are often very successful on paper. From the outside looking in, everything looks wonderful, but inside they feel frustrated, they feel stagnant, they feel like they have a lack of freedom. And so that leads to burnout. We also have pay inequity. So I've always been an entrepreneur, but for those of you who work as an employee, as an executive, in sort of some sort of a system, I could guarantee, almost guarantee, that the pay between the men and the women are not equal. If that is true, put that in the comments or drop me a heart or something, right? Typically in the work environments, there's going to be a little bit of an inequity. And statistically, it's about 82.3% that women are getting paid less than their male counterparts. And that's just criminal. It's just criminal. We're not less qualified. We don't have less experience, and yet we're not getting the pay that we're worth. We also take frequent breaks, and this affects our finances directly. We take breaks to birth children. We take breaks to care for children. Then our parents grow up, as you heard from Patricia, and now we're also taking care of our parents. And so here we have all of these gaps in time at our positions or in our work. So that also affects our retirement and just so many different areas of our financial life. And then lastly, the wealth that we do have, because I will say, not only are women good at spending money, but when we put our mind to it, we're actually really good at making it. If that's true for you, give me a comment, give me a heart. You're great at spending money, but when you put your mind to it, you're really good at making it as well, right? Where we go wrong is in the management of the money. Hello? The management of the money. So our money goes unmanaged, it goes unprotected, or it's not aligned with our true desires. And probably one of the biggest problems we have is that our money's not making us money. So we don't have enough leverage, right? Everybody wants more time, everybody wants more money. And the way to get both is to create leverage. So the answer isn't go work harder. The answer isn't grind harder, save harder, all these things, because the truth is you can't save your way to wealth. You've got to get your money making you money so that you have the leverage to create that wealth and sustain it. All right. So I hope you guys are taking notes. And as I'm going through this, I really want you to not only write down the points that stand out for you, but I want you to be thinking like, who do I know who needs to hear this information? And also, is this information something that I can help myself and my family with to create leverage? All right. So make sure you're writing some stuff down. All right, let's jump in. My favorite part. This is the anatomy of abundance framework that literally saved my life after my husband's passing, because it was a way of recreating my life on my terms in a way where I didn't lose myself. I didn't lose my freedom, right? I was able to raise my 4 children as a widowed single mother and still have a freaking life and feel fulfilled. So the philosophy says that in order to create pure abundance, and I call it pure abundance because pure is untainted, right? Unadulterated, untainted, and abundance, which is overflowing. There's plenty of everything that we want out there available for us. And so that's what I call pure abundance. Okay. But in order to create pure abundance in your life, you need to feel aligned. And I think that alignment feels different for everybody based on your own core values. For me, freedom, play, love. Those are my top 3 values. And so, in order for me to feel fulfilled, I need to have those 3 things incorporated in my life. Once I feel aligned, that helps me to feel more free and more unapologetic. But in order to be unapologetic, I've got to have an identity, right? I can't do like a lot of women do and shape shift myself or shrink myself to fit in other people's boxes. If you resonate with that, drop a comment, drop a heart, some sort of an emoji. How many times have we shrank ourselves to fit in other people's boxes, whether it was a relationship or a job or some sort of an environment that maybe we felt like we were too big for, right? That's not freedom. And that doesn't give us the space or the feeling of safety to fully be ourselves, be fully expressed. So pure abundance, aligned, free, unapologetic, having your own identity, and then having a vision for your life. A vision that is so strong that it pulls you to it. And once you have that big vision, you can back engineer and create a plan to achieve it. And then in order to achieve that plan, what do we need? What are we talking about today? Money. Money. It doesn't matter how great our manifestations, how aligned we are, how any of that, none of that matters here in the physical realm without money. And so I believe often our desire for money is shamed. Our pursuit of money, just depending, like religion will shame you or make you feel bad about it. And, society will make us feel bad about it. But the truth is, we need money to excel and thrive and really live a prosperous life. And so we want to master money. We must master money. So the framework says step one, who are you? Get to the core of who you are, not who you've been told to be, right? You are not what other people have told you to be. You do not have to live their expectations and their vision. Step two is to identify the disempowering stories, habits, and people that you have in your life that are keeping you in that identity so that you can reframe the beliefs and break free. The S, step three, is sacred self-care. And sacred self-care is treating yourself as if you are the divine. So that's caring for your mind, your spirit, your emotions, and your finances in a way that you would the divine. You're honoring it. Step four is then to declare. Declare to your friends, your family, your coworkers, your bosses, the truth of who you are so that you can liberate yourself to start living an aligned life. Because essentially, we've been lying. We've been lying. We've been fitting into other people's boxes. We've been playing the good girl, right? We've been playing all these roles for people that leave us empty. The step number 5 is organize. Once you've done the other 4 steps, you now need to organize your life and your strategies and your money in a way that supports you living in the truth of who you are. And then the last step is to move into action. And I truly believe that with women, we can have the strategies, we can have the knowledge, we can have all these things, but for some reason, there's often a hesitation to go ahead and move into action. So what I want to do today is I want you to assess yourself, right? Look at these different areas. Are you good, average, or need improvement when it comes to really knowing who you are, right? Who you are and who you're not. Have you identified the disempowering stories, people, habits in your life that keep you from really living as who you are? Do you practice sacred self-care? Mental, spiritual, emotionally, financially? Have you declared? Have you been speaking, communicating the truth of who you are to everyone around you and upholding boundaries? Have you mastered your time? Have you mastered your money, right? Do you have strategies for motherhood and self-care and partnership and all of the things that we get to manage, all of the invisible workload? And then lastly, are you moving into action with accountability and support? The key there is accountability and support. So assess yourself. You don't have to tell us the answers, but I do want you to write down the areas where you know you might need some improvement. And I want you to celebrate the areas where you're like, you know what? I got that part. All right. So I think the through line of everything I want you to understand today and take away from this conversation is that women aren't bad with money. We're just new at it. All right. The first time I heard this, I was like, that's kind of true. Because whether you know it or not, we as women, we didn't even have the right to handle the money, have bank accounts, buy homes without a husband until the 60s. It's 2025, you guys. We need to have more grace on ourselves. We need to lean in and start to learn and put ourselves in positions to master money, but don't beat yourself up about it. Okay. So why now? I think probably with everything that's going on in the world, you have a hunch for why now is the time to really lean in and start mastering money and start mastering your relationship with money because the economy is shifting, right? So the cost of waiting is high. The longer you wait, and you'll learn more about this in a little bit, the more it's costing you essentially. Women also live longer than men. We live longer. So we have a longer period of time that we're going to need to sustain ourselves post retirement, right? Our savings needs to be higher, but right now our savings is typically lower because of a lot of the reasons that we spoke about previously. And what that means is that there's a legacy wealth gap as well between men and women, and it's widening, right? We want to create legacy. We end up doing this with our spouses and our partners. Sometimes it doesn't work out, and now we're starting from scratch. And so it's very important to not take it for granted, to really get serious about leaning into money and creating sovereignty and wealth for yourself. That's not supposed to be there. Okay. Uh-oh. What happened? Un momento, por favor. Ah, so strange. They're out of order. Okay, so I'm going to be introducing, I said this earlier, so if you want to take a screenshot of that, you can. You cannot save yourself to wealth. Your money must be making money for you, and that's called leverage. All right. And so now I'm excited. So I have a team predominantly of women for the financial side of my business. What started off as me inheriting the business from my husband turned into a passion for me specific to women. And so I've brought so many amazing women on and trained and developed, and Kim Spears is one of those women, and I'm just so incredibly proud of her. Kim is actually kind of a exception to the rule because she was actually she was in the insurance business and in the financial business before we actually met. And so Kim has 20 years of financial experience. She's a marketing director now with our brokerage. She has over 2 decades of experience, not only in the financial services and insurance business, but also in real estate. Oh, that's me. That is not right. Well, she's married to a beautiful man named Carl. She's actually a parent. They have a blended family. She had her first daughter almost 4 years ago, as well as having beautiful bonus babies with Carl. She's created an incredible life, and she's done some amazing things in our business as a wife and mother, helping not only women, but couples create financial strategies and independence for themselves. There's all sorts of stuff going on my screen. It looks like somebody's marking it up. So with that said, I want to introduce Miss Kimberly Spears. She's going to go through some of the financial education and cornerstones of our business so that you can start to just open up your mind and start to really see exactly how simple finance actually is. So with that, Kim, are you on here?
I'm on here
Okay, wonderful. I am going to see if I can spotlight you. Oh, you're spotlighted, aren't
because
you?
I'm spotlighted. We
Okay.
got you.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank
I'm so glad to be here. You guys, you probably don't know. These are some of like my most favorite people in the whole entire world on this call right now. And we're in the Zoom era, so we do a lot of Zoom calls, but then you just get on with certain faces and you're just like, yes, I want to be in the camera. I want to be up front. What's going on in your world? How's everything going? So I'm just really excited to be here. First, I want to say thank you to Katrina for organizing this and putting it all together. Um, we've come quite a ways in our journey as friends, as business partners. I see her as a mentor 100%. When I hear her talk about her pure abundance, anatomy of abundance, and just some of the things she's done with her framework, it just warms my heart because I've been a beneficiary of it. I've attended retreats with her. I've got a chance to be around her on different occasions. And when we talk about growing your identity, the people that you're around truly, influence you in different directions. And I love what she's saying about, knowing who you are, knowing if you need to set boundaries in any area of your life to do so. For me, it was just opening it up to having a community of women and friends. I think I've always kind of been a lone wolf, if you may say. Very open, very friendly, but in terms of getting into an environment where I could truly be myself and be vulnerable and transparent about some of the struggles and some of the ambitions that I had, I definitely found it with this group here. So like she said, I actually have over 14 years of experience in the industry, but it's funny, I was laughing in my head about 20 years, like, that would have made me 16. And when I think about like how I ended up in the financial industry and how I ended up, helping walk adults through some of their goals and dreams and how to reignite those things, I very much was influenced by my father. Both my parents are teachers. I live in Southern California, the Moreno Valley area. But my dad, when I was about 16, he started teaching high school work experience. And he had always talked to us all the time about making sure that the careers that we chose, the things that we were involved in, that they would support us reaching and living the type of lifestyle that we wanted long term. So when I look at it now, we're pretty much having the same conversation. He's catching people while they're younger and having this conversation, and while I do it with adults. But no matter when you come to the table wanting to know more about how money works or to increase your financial literacy, it's the right time. They talk about when was the best time to plant a tree. Often it was 20 years ago. But if you plant it now, you're creating shade for yourself and ultimately for your legacies. And that's one of the reasons me and my husband work as hard as we do in this industry, because it truly is almost a ministry to make sure that others understand very simple concepts about how money works. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the financial cornerstones. These are 4 pillars that we believe everyone should have an understanding of. And the first is protection. And when we think of protection, oftentimes we talk about life insurance. We may talk about long-term care, but really we're looking at the things that you've already acquired, the thing that you've already worked hard for. I have a cousin who recently lost her mother-in-law, and she had taken some time off to be there for, her husband and her extended family. And while she was off, she ended up getting laid off. So right away, when I called her, I'm like, wow, cousin, like, how do you feel? What's going on? She was like, I feel like I had the carpet pulled from underneath me, because right away school just started and I want to go schedule my kids' dentist appointments, or I want to go make sure that I have my physicals set up, and I can't do that. I have to wait and I have to negotiate, and it's like all this time the protection that I had, I wasn't in control of it. So oftentimes when we're talking about protection, we're talking about you being able to decide what's important for you to protect. When I first came to the industry, I was working for a supplemental insurance company, very big, a wonderful company. And my job was to go in and sit down with the owner, the HR, the CFO, and help them decide what benefits they were going to offer to their employees. I was a very young woman and I was very naive because I assumed that every business owner, every person that took control and had employees was like super organized, super mission driven, and my brother's keeper, and wanted to make sure that everyone understood and had the best options for their families. And that's just simply not the case. So when it comes to deciding what is protected, I really encourage women and every individual not to just lean on what your HR has access to, but to really find out and sit down with a professional to learn what does proper protection look like to you. What are those things that are very important? Another conversation, like sitting down with older women, a lot of widows. For them, it's like, hey, if I get sick, my husband set me up. Like, I'm good. I can pay my bills. I just want to make sure if I get sick, I can stay in my home. I don't want to go to a facility. So talking about things like long-term care is very, very significant. And for us as agents, yes, it's an ability to earn income for our families. But when we really look at what we're able to provide, the peace of mind for others, you know, it really keeps you in this mindset of how many more people can I help? And then we have growth. This is really gets exciting. We're talking about what are the options for your money to grow. When I first heard that line, I was like, I just wanted to grow quickly. Like, there's technical terms for how our money grows. Like, who? No one ever told me that, and I sure would have been interested in it. But today we're educating people on the different options for your money to grow. At what pace do you need it to grow? What are some of the timelines and objectives? Because I think we get away from setting deadlines and goals because some things just begin to seem unattainable. I didn't understand that debt was defined as something that doesn't have a payoff date. So you acquire some debt, you're going to pay it off. You keep putting money towards it. But if you never put a timeline to it, that's debt. That's just an imaginary point in time. Same thing with growth of our money. At this stage of life, I'm very excited to be in control and to know exactly when, exactly how much, exactly where I need to do it to make sure that my money is growing at a pace that's going to help me and my family live the life that we want and have something to look forward to in the future. The third thing is safety, safety and tax advantages. And I'll go through these really quickly. So safety is just understanding the stock market. You know, we've all heard of the S&P 500. When the money is doing well, when the companies are doing well, our money's invested in it. Our money's going to go up. Well, when the market is having volatility, like we keep hearing about, when you see things like COVID, when you see things like 2008, when you see things like Colin Kaepernick taking a knee and Nike stock goes down, that's our money that's really in a volatile environment. It's just not safe. So a lot of people don't know that there are a lot of ways that you can keep your money safe. You can have guarantees. And that's what we like to educate and help people understand and know. Tax advantages, the last thing is just keeping more money in your pocket. You know, we use the example of if I gave you $1 every day and it doubled for 20 years, you could have over $1 million. But because we pay taxes on majority of the income that we make, we don't get to see that compact effect. We don't get to see how that growth could have been there for us. We're helping Uncle Sam make sure his books are in line. So for very simple topics that we educate on, this is one of the concepts that we use to kind of highlight what are we thinking about when we're helping someone figure out what is their financial independence number? What is that number that if they continue to save with this interest rate, that they can feel confident that at some point they can get off the hamster wheel? As my husband says it, what do I got to do to get off the hamster wheel? Can I get a hand up if anyone desires to actually get off the hamster wheel and not have to work for someone else? Anybody thinking about that? Okay, that's my ultimate goal. I don't want to have to ever work for anyone. So one thing that I felt really liberated in is when I learned this rule and it told me, oh, okay, I just got to find the thing that's going to support me in my goals and dreams. So this is the rule of 72. Einstein didn't come up with it, but he coined it as the ninth wonder of the world. And he said, he who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it. And he's talking about interest. So rule of 72 says if you take any interest rate and divide it into 72, the answer is the amount of time it would take for your money to double. Okay. So I always like to go back to, I wish Oprah show was still going on. I wish I could have been in the audience to get her favorite things. But if she said, hey, we're all here on the Oprah show and Wendy, you get $10,000. Georgiana, you get $10,000. Carol, you get $10,000. We were to all get that money, or if we were to give it to a group of people, where do you guys think most people would keep that money? If you're thinking ahead, probably the bank in a savings account, you're absolutely right. Well, when you think about what is the interest rate that our bank is giving us for letting them hold on to our money, it's a lot of times less than 1%. So if the rule 72 says 1 into 72 is 72 years, if I gave you $10,000, then 72 years later, that 10,000 would finally double to 20,000. Is that enough to feel comfortable and secure in retirement? Absolutely not. Shaking your head. It's not. It's absolutely not. But do we know people right now who outside of their Social Security, outside of maybe their pension, don't have $20,000 saved up? So how do we help make sure that they become secure? How do we make sure that they're educated? We partner with a professional. And it's not for us to come in and say, everything you've been doing since now has just been trash. You need to erase it all and start over. No, that's not the case. Most of the time, we're just trying to say, hey, you've got a small shortfall. And if you act right now, there are some things you can do to feel more confident when that time comes. And we don't determine that time, you do. So just looking at the Rule 72 and taking a step further, if I was to ask you, what would a banker do, or what does the bank do when we let them hold our $10,000? Well, the first thing they do is say, let's go and lend it out and earn some interest. So they're going to take my $10,000 when Nandi gets ready to buy a home. They're going to say, hey, yeah, you can borrow some of Kim's money and we're going to charge you this interest rate, something like 4-6%. Okay, cool. You can come borrow some of Kim's money. We're going to charge you interest, and they're going to continue to collect. And then they're going to look at that same rule of 72 and say, if we're earning 10%, 10 into 72 says it only takes 7 years for our money to double. So 29 doubles to 20,000, 36 to 43, 40,000, another 7.2 years, 80,000. Let's just count the doubling periods. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Just by earning 10%, it gave that money an opportunity to double more than 7 times, or at least 7 times. Okay. So when you see at 72, the bank has compounded 640,000, is it a little easier to understand why they'd be willing to give us the 4%? Because they're going to bank the rest. So we have access. We can do the same thing with our money. And that's what we're encouraging you today, is to take control of it and just find out your numbers. So I'm going to introduce a wonderful friend of mine, and Miss Nandi Cooper. She is a phenomenal professional. She's got over 20 plus years in the real estate industry, very successful family business. She's expanded that to include the financial side, and her clients really trust her. She does a phenomenal job, so much that her mother's in business with her. She's going to share 2 more concepts that we like to share with our clients. Nandi, thank you so much for sharing. For my guests that are on here today, you guys are in for a treat. Go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Kim. Can everybody hear me? Am I unmuted? I'm good. Okay.
I just want to
Um,
say that whoever's having fun with the annotation, please stop. I'm like, where's that line coming from? There we go.
the line is driving Patrina crazy, y'all. Let's get the lines off the screen. But thank you so much. I am very glad to be here and to be in this space. This is really what it's about. This is why we are in this industry. To be able to bring the awareness and understanding about money, just simple things. That's literally what brought me into this business. As Kim mentioned, I've been in real estate for over 20 years. And I was introduced to this business by her, by Kim. She called me out of the blue one day. Um, and it's because she had been calling my father. My father is my broker in real estate, and someone had referred her to him. And she said that she really called him for a couple years. And she said he sounded nice. He had some niceness in his voice. So she was just going to kind of keep calling him every few months. So she caught him on a good day, and he listened, he talked, and he said, "Well, call my daughter." And so she called me, and she was looking to see if we would like to connect business wise, to kind of set up a partnership. And I wasn't looking to do anything different at that time, but I did have a goal that year to get life insurance. This was during COVID, and my daughter was in college, and like everybody else, I was thinking, what if something happened to me? If she's in school, and if all I have to give her is my home. I have, my house, and if I were to pass away while she was young, she wouldn't be in a position where she could make her choice of what to do with the house. She would have only one choice but to sell it. And I wanted to at least give her the option to choose. So I said, okay, at least if I can get some life insurance, that way, if I die, she can pay off the mortgage and she can choose if she's going to keep the house or not. That was the extent of my thought. That was the extent of my knowledge with regard to life insurance. And so I shared that with Kim, and she said, okay, I can help you with that. And in doing so, she ended up sharing a wealth of information with me, some that she just shared with you all, and that much more, some I'm going to share now. But all of it blew my mind because I didn't know it. I never heard it before. And I couldn't believe, me being in a wealth building industry, that there was all this information about money and building wealth and different ways to do it other than real estate and stocks, that nobody ever talks about, at least not anybody I ever talked to. And I'm like, and I'm in a wealth building industry. How is that possible? And it bothered me. And ultimately, I've got this young woman that's willing to sit with me for hours on and answer all my questions on Zoom. And I said, you know what? Let me go get my license. I need to understand. I need to learn more, because I can tell that this is kind of the bedrock of our economy. There's this whole other realm of finance that I'm unfamiliar with. And so that's what led me to get my license. That's what led me to seek out this information and really just put that fire and desire in me to make sure that we know to do things just like this and start bringing the conversation into our homes so that it's not something that's just foreign and skeptical. We don't have to be afraid of this information because there's people that use this information on a regular basis to build wealth for themselves and their families. Um, so one of the concepts that she shared with me is this options for your money, how you would like your money to grow. And it's one of those fundamental principles that we like to make sure our clients understand because it becomes the basis of the choices we make to do what to do with our money, how to take advantage of putting our money to work for us, as Patrina talked about, and having that money grow so that we can actually build wealth. Because, like she said, you can't save your way to build wealth. And can I add something to that? You can't work your way into building wealth. It is not possible. That's not what it's designed for. And so it comes down to the leverage. It comes down to having your money compound and grow. So how can we do that? What are those ways? So there are three ways that we do that. Kim alluded to them when she talked about a savings account, putting your money in the bank. That's a fixed method of growing your money. So the bank says, okay, yeah, come, we'll hold your money for you and we'll they say we'll give you about 0.2%. That's really what they say. But let's be kind. Let's say they say, okay, we'll give you 1%, we'll give you 2%, we'll give you 4%, right? And a CD. It's fixed. You know what you're getting. You know what it's going to be over the length of time. And that's fine. Some people are very comfortable with that. But that growth method is very slow, right? It's only going to take, like I said, it's going to double every so many years. And so you just kind of got to wait for that doubling period to roll by. The other method that most of us are familiar with is that variable method of growth. And that's where now, just like Kim was explaining, your money's in the market. So the market is performing well, your money's growing. It might have years where it shoots up and the market performs at 20%, 25, 30% for that year. And everybody's excited, right? Because everybody's making money. And then what happens? Something shifts, something unpredictable. You wake up, the market has changed and there's a negative loss. Sometimes negative 10, sometimes negative 20, sometimes 30%. Think about people that were on the verge of retiring in 2008, or even more recently on the verge of retiring in 2022, and they wake up the next day and 30% of their money is gone. That's the variable market. That's the risk, right? You take the risk of the loss for the hopes of the gain. Um, and so that's the variable market. Nothing wrong with it. It's just about understanding what your tolerance is for that risk. And then there's a third method of growth. This was one of the things I had never heard of because, frankly, being in real estate, I never participated in the stock market. I understood real estate as a means of building wealth. It had been taught to me since I was born, basically. And I understood the stock market, but I didn't like the stock market because I don't like that losing stuff. That ain't fun to me. Like I don't, it's not worth it. So I never really participated in that. But then to find out that there's a whole nother method of building wealth called the index strategy that gives you the benefits of participating in those large gains that the market gives you, but it's not actually in the stock market. It's mirroring the stock market so that when the market crashes, your money is protected. It has a floor that eliminates the loss potential, basically. So when the market declines, your money just levels off and it just kind of waits. It just chills until the market recovers. And when the market recovers, it picks up again with those gains and it continues to climb and grow over time without any losses in the market because, again, it's not in the market. It's participating, it's mirroring the stock market. So there's a whole nother way to build money that protects against loss that I didn't know about. Do you know what I would have done if I had known about that for the first 20 years of my career? How is it that nobody's ever said this to me? I don't like that. But this company and these women are the ones that are sharing it and bringing it to me. And now I'm doing the same. So I just love this kind of space where we're able to do that with one another. Another important method is again that idea about tax, right? And how taxes impact how our money grows. So just like she said, that dollar that can double every year for 20 years will end up making you a millionaire, except for taxes, right? Because every year that you make money, Uncle Sam wants his cut. That's the tax me now category. That's any product or any method of growth or tool of growth where you have gains in that year. The Uncle Sam wants his cut that year. So that's anything you acquire in your savings account, any interest, any stocks, any CDs, your income, right? We're familiar with that. Every year we got to pay our taxes. And real estate, right? Anytime you sell a property that year, Uncle Sam wants his cut. Well, what that does is it chips away at their money's ability to compound. So everything that you're saving, if every year you've got to give it a portion of it away, it never makes it to that $1 million. Then so we have the tax me later category. These are programs where the government basically said, okay, so it's kind of impossible for people to save their way to wealth, right? With us taking a little bit every year. So why don't we do this? We'll have corporations, we'll give them tax incentives to help their people save their money by taking the money out of their paychecks before they pay taxes. The corporation manages it and handles it and puts it in managed accounts where that money is growing in the market. And they do that for the length of time that their employees are working for them. And they allow their money to compound and grow over time so that when they're ready to retire, now they've got the kind of money that they can actually live on when they retire. Oh, but we're just patient. We still gonna come get our taxes. We still gonna we're fine. Yeah, go ahead, grow it for 30 years, grow it for 40 years. Because by all means, when you're ready to use it, Uncle Sam is coming to take their cut. And let me ask you, how many people think you pay more taxes when you at the end of your career than you do in the beginning of your career while you're earning the money? Can't say for sure because tax rates changes, but I feel like I pay more taxes now than I did 20 years ago. Yeah. So, but again, nothing wrong with it. Take advantage of it. These are things, your 401ks, your pensions, your IRAs. These are things that have their benefits and have their place, especially when your companies are matching those donations. That's free. I mean, those contributions, that's free money. So absolutely get that. But if you had your choice to be taxed now, taxed later, or taxed never, which would you choose? I know what I would choose. Tax me never. There is an actual thing where you can grow your money and never pay taxes on the growth of that money. These are your Roth IRAs. These are municipal bonds, which are kind of special. You have to have a lot of money for those. Your college 529 plan. So basically, you're contributing to these savings vehicles with money you've already paid taxes on, your post tax dollars, so that as the money grows and compounds, when you go to access it, now you don't need to pay taxes on that growth. Another option that falls within this category is life insurance. So, life insurance becomes another tool that you can use to build wealth. It's one of those pillars of real estate, stocks, and life insurance that I didn't know about that you can use to actually contribute and build wealth. And then when you go to use the money, that money you don't have to pay taxes on because of the tax code of life insurance. So, again, basic concepts, things that have been there and available and used by people that know for decades. And the only reason why we don't use them is because we don't know. So we're bringing that awareness, we're bringing that education and letting people know what's available so that you can start making those better choices. And we do that through a 6-step process. There are 6 areas that comprise our financial health. We can't really be in a state of true financial independence, financial sovereignty, unless we've dealt with all 6 of these areas. That includes your cash flow. So that's money coming in, money going out. How are you managing your expenses? How are you choosing to save the money that you're bringing in? Is everything that comes in essentially goes out in that same month? Then you've got a cash flow problem. Emergency fund, having enough money set aside in an easily accessible fund so that when something unexpected comes up, you have something to fall back on. You typically 3 to 6 months is recommended. However, truthfully, after COVID, we kind of all learned that goes real fast. So 12 months to 2 years is really ideal. Debt management, having, how much are you in control of your debt? Are you spending more than you're making so that every month you are constantly paying for last month's expenditures, 6 months ago's expenditures? a years ago's expenditures. You're using this month's money for something you bought 2 years ago. It's getting on top of that and eliminating that debt and help and being healthy in that area. Having proper protection, where Kim talked about, deciding and knowing what's important to protect and having things in place that protects that. So that the main thing that we bring to our families and to our households is our ability to earn money. That's really our greatest asset. So, what is our protection of our income in the event that we're no longer able to make it? If we get sick, if we have an accident, if we need to take some time off for, some medical circumstance for ourselves or a loved one, what are the things that protects our assets and the things that we work so hard for? Having proper protection and then having that protection for our loved ones in the event that we pass away. Building wealth. I always like to say that, we don't have to, so often we save and we do the things with our retirement plans and we put the money away and we just kind of wait to see if it's going to be enough. We just put it over there and then we get there and say, okay, can I retire? But you can actually plan for how your money grows. You can make sure that your money is growing at a rate that's going to be enough to help you reach your goals. So having that in order and then also preserving that wealth, ensuring that you have all the documents in place to ensure that your legacy is left the way that you want it left and not determined by the state or the courts. So all six of these areas come together. Being strong in one or two does not make you financially healthy. It takes being healthy in all six areas to really have your financial house in order. Because as soon as, for example, you making great money, you work a great job, you making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, as soon as you stop having that ability to work, get laid off, get sick, whatever, if you don't have all these other areas in place, something else is going to crumble. That debt management is going to crumble, right? Or, your emergency fund, not having that in place requires you to then rely on your credit cards. So just examples of why each of these areas are important and why it takes a professional to help you walk through that process. So that's what we do. That's what we offer. Giving people one the understanding of the need for that kind of analysis, to have someone assist you in that process, to help you look at your own finances and be educated on what's available to help you reach your goals, right? It takes being licensed to be able to help people in this field. We're extremely heavily regulated, the most regulated industry on in the country. So you are required to work with a licensed professional to be able to learn the information at a level that is considered sound and right. So sitting down with a professional and having that opportunity is something that we offer as licensed professionals. But also, we offer the opportunity to join us in business. And that's by, being able to get your license and putting yourself in a position to be able to share the information with others. Just like Kim called and shared the information with me. Just like we then share the information with my mother, who you're going to hear from in a little bit, and how that benefited and changed her life. And now she's in the position of sharing that information with people she knows. And by being licensed, we're able to be compensated. In fact, like I said, you have to be licensed in order to share the information. So it's the only way to be able, you are only able to be compensated to really help people. So we give people that opportunity to join us in business. And really, that's our greatest opportunity because, like we said, you don't really work your way into wealth, right? True wealth comes out of ownership. True wealth comes out of leverage, having a system in place. So building wealth comes from having your own and working for yourself. So we do give you that opportunity. At the end, you'll have a chance to let us know if you're interested in going through the client experience and learning a little bit more about how these concepts can work for you and your family, and move you in the direction of your own liberation and sovereignty for your finances, and then also how to enhance that with um, an additional business opportunity, and the growth that you experience just from what you learn about money makes the investment into starting this business well worth it. So if you know yourself or if you know someone else that can benefit from this information, we ask you to let us know at the end and we can go from there. So
Absolutely.
thank you, Katrina.
Thank you so much, Nandi. That was awesome. That's actually my first time seeing you present. That was so fun. All right. So I know you guys took a ton of notes. And again, I say this is a conversation because it is a conversation. Even though we're not talking back and forth, hopefully we're sharing information and you're having a dang conversation with yourself and that pen, right? Because we want you to bring your questions. We want you to bring your concerns. We want you to bring, where you are now, where you want to be, and allow us to help you fill that gap. And so, what's in it for you, right? You came, you spent some time with us, you heard some amazing concepts that could be life changing if you take action in one way or another. But what's in it for you is also more confidence and more clarity around your financial decisions. It also is going to offer a wealth that supports your lifestyle and your legacy, as you heard. So I was in business with my husband. I have a daughter who's in the financial business as well. Nandi's in business with her mom. Kim's in business with her husband. Like it is a legacy within itself once you learn and start to share that information. So you have the opportunity to affect change in generations to come. You're going to free up your time. You're going to have more freedom, right? And you're not going to be hustling to prove your worth anymore. You've heard it countless times tonight. You can't work your way to wealth. You can't save your way to wealth. You must create leverage. And then community. So whether you go the client path or whether you decide you want to start learning and get licensed and join us in our mission, you're going to be surrounded by a group of incredible women who are on that same path, who are learning and growing together. And that's going to help you define your success. They say that you become the 5% of the people that you spend the most time with. So mind your associations. Okay. So, with that said, your best next step. We want to help you clarify and quantify your vision, not just what you want, but what is it actually going to take monetarily for you to make those visions happen? We want to help you identify where your money leaks might be because believe it or not, especially we ladies, we have all these little things that we do that we don't think about, right? I keep a very detailed budget. So every single day as I'm spending money, I put it in my budget sheet, like an accountability of what I'm spending. And let me tell you, when I first started this, I was blown away because I was like, geez, you don't think about the $3 you spent here and the $5 you spent there. But what happens is when you're on top of your money, when you're in relationship with your money on a daily or weekly or monthly basis, your relationship changes. You start to respect it more. It starts to respect you more. It starts showing up for you more, right? It's a partnership. And so you'd really be surprised at how you'll make different decisions about your money once you're in relationship with it. So we want to help you do that. We also want to help you discover opportunities to increase, grow, and protect your wealth and determine your next best, most aligned step. So with that said, you can scan the QR code or you can reach out to the person who invited you to come to this conversation today and schedule a time. Say, hey, I really want to take a deep dive into my financial wellness and fill some of the gaps. Or you're like, hey, I know I need to save. I want to invest. These are all things that have been on my dream board forever, but I just don't have enough money. Then in that case, maybe you want to explore ways to make some additional income. So the other thing I want to do before we wrap up our conversation is just tell you a little bit about how these things can change your life. So this is one of my girlfriends, colleagues. She's been a contractor and anyway, partners in all kinds of different things. She's also been a client, not only in the financial business, but at my retreats and with coaching and masterminds that I've done. But this is someone who was working literally 6 jobs at one point because in her mind, she was convinced that she needed to earn her way to wealth, right? And so what happened is she's expending time, she's expending energy, she's working all of these different jobs. none of which were in alignment, except for I think one, the marketing business, was in alignment with what she really wanted. And I was having a conversation with her and I said, yo, Brandy, like, of all these 6 jobs that you're doing, like, are you actually making money? Right? Just a simple question. Are you actually making money? And I encouraged her to go really look at her, the time that it's taking her, the gas that it's taking her, the expenses associated with having all of these jobs, and then also take an inventory of her energy, right? How are you feeling? Do you feel fulfilled? Do you feel energized? So she ends up quitting the jobs. She ends up coming in business with us part time, getting licensed and starting in this business. She felt like she was unable to save before, but then, of course, the additional income allowed her to start saving and investing. She didn't have a financial education prior to us having this conversation, and she started to get more savvy with financial education and those cornerstones that we talked about. She also cares for her mom. Her mom is her best friend. They live together, they do work together, they do business together. I mean, everything. And mom has had health challenges on and off. So, similar to Patricia, she was caring for her mom at times. And these were all things that were running in the back of her head all of the time, which was driving her to be stuck in the hustle. So now she's given up all the jobs. She actually, her and her mom gave up their place, beautiful place in Solana Beach by the beach, and they decided that they wanted to travel the world. So they worked backwards. They started with their desire and then they built out everything else from that desire. So now she's making more money than she has ever made with ease. She's got investments. She's protected her mom and herself. And she's just living a life of joy, fulfillment, fun, travel, and all of the things that we feel like are so far out there. But in all reality, with the right strategies, we could actually experience now. So that's Brandy. And then one other story, because I do believe that we could talk all day long, but we want you to hear it from the mouths of the people who have actually had shifts and experiences. So if you are still on, Stephanie, I see you. I'm going to spotlight you. And I would love for you to just tell your own story. Please share with us where you were, where you are now, where you're going. And by the way, Stephanie is Nandi's mom, who you just heard from.
Thank you, Patrina. Thank you so much for including me in this. And I appreciate everything that was shared. I'm familiar with the presentation that Nandi and Kim did because I've been doing this for a year now with them. And initially, I came into this last year to support Nandi because she was going for a promotion. And I didn't want to do anything but just refer people to her. You know, I had retired the year before, and I had lost my husband the year before that, which was 2022. So I was kind of just figuring things out in a new way, not unlike what you went through when you lost your husband. It's just a very different landscape. When I was with him 35 years and he, you know, we lived kind of separately financially. We never had a joint account. We always had our own separate money. But I worked, he had his interests, I had mine. And, you know, it worked for us. But one thing, he always paid the mortgage. And he always paid, you know, for major repairs or financed it in a way that worked for him. You know, if he had to refi the mortgage to cover solar panels, which he did, and then took another loan out to pay off the solar panels and to pay off his car that was hybrid, you know, electric and gas. So by the time he left, you know, I had 2 mortgages, and the solar panels and the car were paid for, but that second mortgage covered those costs. But he also left a little IRA, or he had it invested in gold, which I didn't quite understand or want to deal with. So Nandi, actually, I was a client first, right? Kim helped me get life insurance about a month after we did the memorial for my husband. because I was at that point, just really skittish about living into another year without it. He didn't believe in life insurance, and of course, we didn't have it, but we had enough money pieced together to take care of his final expenses. Um, but I didn't want to just waste any more time with that. That was the one thing I really wanted to do, was leave my children something. And so that was my introduction to the company that I ended up joining in 2024. Again, with the intention of just referring clients so I could still be retired and what I wanted to do, figure things out. But the more I got into it, learning about it, and seeing what other people were earning, on these power talks, and sitting through the weekly meetings to see how much people were making, not once a week but twice a week. It was incredible. Um, that just kind of changed my opinion, as well as the desire to understand this more, to really see where I could fit in. It sort of started feeling like a purpose and something to drive me. It was making my brain function, which had gotten kind of smushy in the little bit of retirement I was in. But it's been a good experience, and haven't made a killing, but it's been decent, and it's really depending on how much I want to do. So that fits in for my lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I'm trying now to proceed to get the next promotion. I got one, and now I'm trying to get the next one. And we'll see where it goes from there. I'm still kind of resistant to dive 100% in.
And you don't have
but
to. That's the beautiful part about
but
it,
that's the
isn't
good
it?
part about it, right?
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, it's been quite an experience. I'm really proud of Nadia. I'm proud of Kim, and I'm really proud of you and how you bounced back from your experience. And if I had known half of this when I was much younger, things would have been tremendously different for me. I'm sure of it. And I just read for this class that I'm doing how insurance is the single thing that has kept this country afloat. Life insurance, cash value life insurance is how Disney and about 100 other companies started their business, because they could use that money, and how the corporations use that money to build pension funds and healthcare accounts. They go out and put their money into life insurance. So if these companies can do it, and the banks, oh my God, the banks have billions of dollars invested in life insurance. I just read that today.
It's literally what they call the secret of the top
It's an
1%.
absolute, hidden secret, well kept secret, that this is how companies function. And the whole game about the 401k, I learned that game in '03 or '04, when that some .com thing bust. Right, by the time I left the job I had been on for 15 years and had invested in the 401k for a number of years, had thought I had a decent amount of money, left it
Thought
there.
you had a 401k and you
I
had
thought I
a
had, yeah,
401k.
something. And then '08 comes, and about
Yeah.
half of it is gone.
Yep.
When
Yeah.
I moved it over to the new company financial manager at the time, there was very little left. But one thing I did that he convinced me about, and he didn't explain the IUL or FIA part of the annuity that I got, but it made sense to me that he said I know it was a fixed index annuity now. Then I wasn't quite sure what it was called. He told me I wasn't going to lose any money, and I would I'd have to leave it locked in for 12 years, and I was in my 50s then. So I figured, okay, I know I'm not going to be able to touch it. And by the time I moved it from that company credential to the company that Nandi and Kim helped me with, I had an extra 30 grand in there after 12 years. I don't know if that's good or bad, but it was better than anything else that I had at the time. So
really, it's just being armed with the
right,
knowledge and
right.
having the support to make some new choices. And it
Yes,
sounds like that's exactly what you've done. So
yes,
thank you
yes.
so much. We appreciate you for sharing. And again,
Mhm.
my first time hearing your story, didn't even realize we had that in common. So
Yeah,
blessing
thank you.
for sure. So with that, I want to be respectful of everybody's time. And I want to again thank you for being here. If you haven't already, scan the QR code and schedule a time for your financial wellness checkup. Or reach out to the person who invited you tonight. And I just really am honored to have spent this time with you. And I know that you had to have taken at least one strong takeaway from this conversation. So with that,